Hi, everyone, and welcome to ALD No Limits. I'm Christie.
And I'm Ken. We've got our very first mother-daughter guest today, everyone. This is awesome. We have Jessie Torrey and her mom, Jean Cappello, and we are blessed to have this double ALD is gonna be awesome to talk about. Welcome.
That's right. Welcome. We're so excited to have you. What a special day this is to chat with you and have this opportunity.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much.
And aren't they beautiful? Just want to put it out there. Gorgeous ladies. Gorgeous.
We like having the same haircut.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
totally.
Yes.
Twinning on the hair. I need to get those bangs. They're looking good, guys. Looking good. So our first question really is for you to tell us about who you are, introduce yourselves, and your lives outside of ALD. We'll get into ALD, don't worry. But first, tell us who you are, what's important to you, a little bit about your backgrounds.
Who are you, Mom?
Oh, I will start out. I married at 20, moved to Chile. And as a young bride, Jessie and her older brother, Pablo, were both born there, and learned Spanish and started my lifelong teaching career. And up until 2 or 3 years ago, I was teaching most of the time. The last 16 years, I was with the Red Cross in New York. That coincided with Jack's diagnosis. Actually, he was diagnosed in those years. But I didn't know one thing about ALD, just not at all. I was married. We had 3 children. Later, the 7 grandchildren started being born. That was fabulous. And the teaching, I was a big bike rider, a full life. When we moved back to the States from Puerto Rico, we lived in Puerto Rico after Chile. We moved to Summit, New Jersey. As soon as the 3 kids were kind of up and launched, we moved to New York. And I must have been a New Yorker in a previous life. There's nothing about New York I don't like. I like everything, even the trash on the streets. I mean, none of it bothers me. And now the last 19 years, I've been involved with the ALD community and now have a lot of symptoms myself. And we've learned a lot. It's been a long story and continues.
Thanks so much for sharing, and what a wonderful, adventurous life you've lived so far.
Yeah.
And more to come.
I would like to add, she travels constantly and always has, and a big, broad, beautiful life pre and post ALD.
Love that. So Jessie, let's hear about you.
Well, I was born in Chile when they were living there and was raised in Jersey. So I'm a Jersey girl at heart, and I've landed here. It's where I've raised my kids. Happily married. Before ALD, I was a photographer and an art teacher. And a mom was really my primary occupation, and I loved it. And it was definitely like a picture perfect life. Good marriage, 2 kids, a dog. We had a fenced in yard. Everything was great and easy-ish.
Huh.
So that's who I am. Still
Love it.
pretty much the same, just everything's kind of marked by our disease.
Right.
So let's talk about that. And I just want to acknowledge those books in your back. You're both educators, right? I love that you have all the books in the background. And what is the certificate?
No, you know what's so funny? We're in Dan's office. My
Oh,
husband.
it's all
So
about
that's
Dan.
it. That's it. MBA. I've got two
So
master's
cool.
degrees, but they're not behind me.
Well,
Sorry, my
get those
office is
framed. Get
really
those
cold.
framed.
Yes, I will. I will. Sorry, my office was too cold today.
Yeah, it
Couldn't
is
be there.
pretty frigid across the country at this point.
Sure.
So our story began 19 years ago, our ALD story. Jack was unraveling. We all witnessed it. It went from like quirky and kind of funny to concerning pretty fast. There's Jacko. Before and while we were trying to figure out what was going on.
And how old was he?
He was 8 by the time he was diagnosed. We now, in retrospect, there were symptoms, some adrenal insufficiency earlier, but that was never diagnosed. But he would kind of melt anytime he was sick, which now I know what was going on. And some of the quirky behavior started probably when he was 6 or 7, but he was my first kid. And boys are a little quirky anyway. Kids are. So it wasn't until the beginning of 2nd grade that we got really concerned. He had a teacher who had him for 1st grade too, so she witnessed it also, and she was a big force behind searching for what was going on. So like so many boys, he was misdiagnosed with ADHD.
Yeah.
And everyone seemed to agree. Like we went to learning specialists and his pediatrician. We went to a neurologist because I didn't want to medicate him without a neurologist on board with it. They all agreed it was ADHD, but of course, none of the behavioral treatments we tried or medications, nothing worked. He just kept unraveling.
Yeah, I remember so clearly helping Jack. This would have been the beginning of 2nd grade. And he had been doing arithmetic just fine and then wasn't. And I remember sitting at the dining room table with him and realizing he couldn't write a 5. He was drawing it, which is a bit, you write your numbers in a very specific way. And he was sort of starting at the top, then bringing, very, and then his teacher started saying, he can't do things he was doing last year. Yeah. He suddenly couldn't set the table.
Yeah, which for my mom, that's a
That's a
biggie.
big deal.
That's a biggie for her.
The kids used to come to our house a lot for the weekends. Anna and Jack would come stay with us. And I began, but again, the psychologist was saying we had never heard of ALD, right? And they were saying attention deficit disorder and
It was so many doctors, and there was a psychologist because we were concerned that maybe it was emotional, maybe that something had happened. He had lived through a trauma. We didn't know. But then we finally met a doctor who was willing to work with him, but said to us before I put him on the schedule, I want him to have an MRI because I need to rule out anything neurological. And we did it at our local hospital, and within minutes of him being wheeled into the MRI, they already were coming to find my husband and I, and they said something seriously wrong. And we went to the worst case scenario, or so we thought. We thought it was a brain tumor. And they said, no. And we were relieved, but they weren't. They said, no, this is significant. And it was 5 days there And then they transferred us to Columbia Presbyterian in New York. And it was another 5 days before they were able to figure it out. His disease started in his frontal lobe. So I think although they had leukodystrophies on their radar, they weren't convinced just because it didn't present as ALD typically does. And then, my mom was actually there. And when they said to me, when will your husband come? Because he was coming every night to see us before he went back to Anna, Chuck's little sister, who's there, who's 6 at the time. And my husband came and my mother stayed in with Jack as they brought us into this little room that was kind of behind the nurses' station. The whole thing was kind of creepy because it was a room we didn't even know was there. The room was filled with people and everyone looked really down. And then one of the people that introduced themselves was a social worker. And that always gets me whenever I think of that.
Oh,
Because that was the time I was like, oh, shoot, that can't be good, that they need somebody here who's a social worker.
and we had heard, because Jesse particularly, but I too, we were Googling all kinds of what could cause. And the psychiatrist you had talked to had said it'll be something awful, whenever they figure out, this is not ADHD. And childhood MS was one possibility.
Childhood schizophrenia.
Yeah, childhood schizophrenia, adrenoleukodystrophy, that was on the list. So before the team said the name, and it was really kind of the worst diagnosis.
It was, and during that meeting, they said, you all have 2 choices. Either we can try to do a stem cell transplant, but the disease looks pretty progressed, and we're not sure it'll be able to stop the progression. It could accelerate the disease, and you could lose him during the process. Or you could bring him home and keep him comfortable, and he'll likely be gone by the end of the year. And it was April. And
Oh, my goodness.
before we left that room, my husband was like, oh, we'll take door number 2. We are getting the transplant. Or door number 1, we're getting the transplant. And they kept saying, I don't know if anybody else in the world has gotten this, but probably. They said you should watch the movie Lorenzo's Oil.
Oh
That's
no.
and talk to your friends and family before you decide. And we were like, no, like if there's any hope to save our son's life, we're diving in. And thank God I didn't watch Lorenzo's Oil that night. That
Phew.
would have,
Right.
I mean, I have watched it since, and
Mhm.
it was hard to get through. But I don't know if that would have been a good thing. Anyway, and they did all that. Don't Google it, which, we all do. And 19 years ago, there was no ALD Connect or ALD Alliance, or no one was there trying to be the first thing that people find. So it was just like depressing research. And it was awful. But we did trust our doctors at Columbia. And we just kind of took Jack home and waited for them to find a donor, and didn't let him go back to school because they said he can't get sick before this. And he was able, they did find a cord blood match. His sister, they did test Anna, which I was rather relieved that she wasn't a match, because I was so scared of, I was just scared, like, what if she is a match, and what if Jack doesn't survive transplant? I was scared. Now I wouldn't be as scared at all, but I was scared. Yeah. But they did find a cord blood match, a little girl who had been born in Detroit 2 years before. And so it was a month to the day after his diagnosis, they gave him his stem cell transplant. And during that time, I did, via Google, find out that University of Minnesota and Mass General were leading, they were kind of the leading doctors for ALD. And I did contact doctors that all said, they're happy to help our doctors, but they said you don't have time to transfer the care right now. Like, the momentum had already been built and it was started. So they said, we'll tell your doctors what the protocol is, what we recommend, but stay put. And not that I'd recommend to anyone not to go to one of the leading centers, because obviously it's so much better if you do. But there were some benefits to being local. We're only 40 minutes away. So it meant Anna could stay living at home and Dan was at home, and he'd go back and forth. And my parents live in New York. My mom would ride her bicycle from the Upper East Side to Washington Heights every day. And I mean, she's like the chicest person ever. And she,
And a fold up bike. So I'd fold up. I was either coming from the Red Cross on the west side or coming from the apartment, fold up my bike and go in the hospital. It was great.
everyone knew her. Everyone was like,
Keep getting
"That
cooler in my
How-
mind.
How long did that take? How was a ride?
Biking up there, it was like 45 minutes. I was a
Okay.
big biker.
Okay.
Biker.
Gotcha.
But what was so wonderful from my point, well, Juan and I felt it was so incredible. Jesse and Dan completely agreed on, there's an expression in Spanish, no le enten balas, a bullet can't get between them. And that I run the Spanish support group for ALD Connect, and it comes up over and over. Families that have gotten a diagnosis and getting a stem cell transplant in Latin America, unless you're in Argentina or Brazil, is very unlikely. But so often with families, the mother and father don't agree about what kind of treatment. And that makes a tragic situation even worse. You all they completely agreed about what to do. And the other thing is Columbia had never done a stem cell transplant for ALD. The doctor, the wonderful Dr. Cairo, treated sickle cell and leukemia. He was a cord blood specialist. I mean, that was his big thing. But he kept saying, "Oh, Jackal, once he engrafts, and he'll be starting 3rd grade, maybe a little late." He didn't know anything about ALD, which is so ironic. But he did a great job, and Jack got through the transplant and did not get graft versus host. And from that point of view, it was good.
It was hard, though. Transplants always hard, but he was in the hospital that year for transplant 79 days. And then they released us. That picture on the right was the day he got to go home. But then right before day 100, we were in clinic and he had a line infection. Thank God, while we were in clinic. It was the day before he was getting a central line out. And so we spent another 10 days in the hospital. So between diagnosis, treatment, and the aftermath of the line infection, it was over 100 days in the hospital, which was really hard. But going home was really hard too, because the doctors hadn't really prepared us that Jack's, disabilities weren't temporary. So we kept thinking like, oh, he'll start talking soon. Oh, he won't be in diapers for long. Oh, that G-tube, that's temporary. And it just was hard to be, you're isolated because, he couldn't get sick. So it wasn't like we had people around besides my parents and a few close friends. That was hard, getting used to what life was going to look
Well,
like.
and the other thing, and this really is a scandal, is you were giving 36 medications a day.
58.
58. Jesse
Wow.
had
Not different Medicaid, but 58, like, I had syringes full
to
of
go in the
medication.
G-tube.
There.
And I, of course, saying, oh my goodness, well, we've got to get a nursing service to come. And nurses will not deal with someone who has a central line because they know that there'll be a central line infection and you might sue them. And so I remember a nurse coming and Jesse had different size syringes and trying to keep it all straight. Oh, it was just unbelievable. And the nurse going over everything to teach her. And I, of course, as my mom was saying, oh no, honey, we want to hire you to come in twice a day and walk Jesse. No, no, no. And the hospital really should have said, Westfield Children's Hospital probably would have been a good place for a month or whatever.
Yeah,
I
like
mean,
a
who knows?
rehab.
But
Because we had to access his central line twice a day. I was a photographer.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
it was wacko.
it was
I
crazy.
would wake up at like 2 a.m. Jack had a bunk bed in his room and he slept below, and Dan and I took turns sleeping on the top bunk
Yeah.
because we were so worried something would happen.
Of course.
And he needed medication and he wasn't eating at all. So all his nutrition was going through his G-tube. It's crazy life post-transplant for us.
And
It's
that you can't
crazy.
hire, if you're lucky enough to be able to afford it, you can't hire medical staff at all to help you. You can't hire a nurse,
It's hard.
which you ought to be able to do.
Right.
You know.
Especially when
But-
you're not a nurse yourself and
Yeah.
to get trained and up to speed with everything.
But any ALD newborn screening families that are listening, this was not like a standard going home situation. I think Columbia was used to sending kids home who had leukemia, who were post-transplant, and they were just stronger. They were able to do more. It was an unusual situation made harder because of their lack of knowledge. And I love Columbia. I love them. Our daughter, Anna, is actually in medical school at Columbia, which was like a
Yeah.
weird full circle moment. They're a great hospital. It's just they don't know the disease.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and so
then-
going
oh,
sorry, go ahead.
Well,
I
I
was
was going to say that this was 19 years ago when they tested to see where the gene came from. And, I got a giant, yes, I have the gene. And then my parents were both
Mm.
tested, my mother. But we were told, but as women, you're just carriers.
Yeah.
Don't
Yep.
worry about you. And I'm kind of glad I didn't have that in my head then, because
That's
maybe
true.
I
It
would
would
have.
have made it even
transplant.
harder.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
can't imagine. You're right. That's interesting. I just wanted to go back for a second, just for our listeners and for my own curiosity. Did Jack have a less score? Like after the MRI and that I can't even the way you were telling the story about the meeting in that room behind the nurse's station, like I felt horrified for everyone just at the weight of that news. Um did they talk about less score? I mean, you mentioned progression kind
It,
of
I'm very relieved they were not able to get or give a less score because it was in his frontal lobe.
okay.
And I'm very relieved because our insurance paid 100% of transplant. But like a year or two later, we had started seeing other doctors that understand the disease more. And we were told that his initial MRI indicated like a less score of 11, 12, 13.
Yeah.
I don't think our insurance would have done it. So that was the universe helping us out
Yeah.
a little.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
Huh. So
But
yeah,
we knew when Jesse and I were diagnosed, I did find a group, and I'm trying to think what it was, but I knew fairly within a year that women were symptomatic, that a lot of women were symptomatic, even though having trouble walking. And my mother, I'm 80, and when my mother was about early 80s, she was having a lot of neuropathy. I remember her saying, I only know where my feet are when I'm looking at them. Right. And I'm kind of that way myself. And I walk with a cane. My mother spent about a year and a half walking with an umbrella. Don't do that. Umbrellas are not designed to support your body weight in case you fall. But anyway, she was told when she was about 83, 84, that she had stenosis of the spine and needed spinal surgery. She didn't do it. She said, I'm in my 80s. I'm not about ready to have my back operated on. But one thing that's so good now that they know that women do become symptomatic. The older you get, the more likely you are to be symptomatic. If you know you have ALD, you know not to let anyone talk you into spinal surgery because it won't do any good. That's not what's called, stenosis, which is very common. Stenosis is very common. We're not built to last. As you get older, things start going the matter. But if you're a woman and know you have ALD, if you have bladder problems, they're neurological, not muscular. You can avoid a lot of medical testing and one thing and another if you know that you have ALD. That's the big advantage and now that they
And
find,
I'm glad I know now, but well, it would have been different. I kind of like that I got information piecemeal instead of all at once. So I could kind of deal with what we were dealing with, swallow hard and move through it, and then take on the next challenge as it came. I definitely lean on like humor and positivity. It's the way I am. My husband's the same way. It's how we raised our kids. So I'm glad I could keep that. If I had gotten all the information all at once, I might have been a basket case. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. The piecemeal information allows you to process in a different way too, right? And you were so focused on your son, and so many moms are so focused on their children first and foremost, right? And
Yeah.
moms who screen positive, a lot of times like, oh, that's secondary, speaking for myself, but I've heard that from others as well. It's like, that's secondary stuff.
But some of the mothers too, I see with the Spanish language support group, young mothers, and unfortunately in Latin America, except for the two countries, the boys that have cerebral, and they don't get any help, really. I
Right.
mean, other than treating symptoms. And even in a country like Chile, they now have done, I think, they do stem cell transplants, but for leukemia, not for ALD, although they have done one now. But anyway, if the mother starts having symptoms, women have to take care of themselves too. I mean, you didn't really have symptoms 19 years ago.
No, and even
Yeah,
now,
thank God.
like I'm doing more to take care of my body, but I don't like go to the women's calls. I don't, because I don't have time. I'm still dealing with the cerebral ALD.
But I had a woman 3 weeks ago who has a son. They're trying to get him up to Minnesota. They're getting all the money to, pay for it out of pocket. But she's having real walking problems. She's in her late 30s. I mean, it is all there's so many phenotypes that some people are affected much earlier. I've been very fortunate to be affected later in life, but women have to take care. You can't take care of your child if your own health is declining. And I think it's good that they finally have said that, they're owning up to women being symptomatic. And of course, it's so different, every person.
Right. So what are you doing to take care of yourselves? What are you doing to stay healthy?
You interviewed Julie a few weeks ago. Great episode. She has been such an inspiration to me on a lot of levels. She's a great person. But she had talked about Pilates, which my mother has talked about for years. But when your mom recommends something, you sometimes
It's the
don't
kiss of
listen.
death. The kiss of death.
But when Julie recommended it, then I listened. Sorry, Mom. But so that and honestly, you were right. Damn it. That I really do feel like is helping because one, there's something, I think the strength that you need is important. I have a tremor, which I think is ALD related, the folks at Hopkins think is. And I feel like it's helping my tremor a little, that like quiet, slow movements. And also, I think it's helping the pelvic floor because
Yes.
I have some peeing issues. And I'm also in my mid 50s. It's also great strength training and stuff. So I'm doing that. I've always written, which has helped a huge amount for me to process emotionally what's gone on. And then I find it very powerful to be part of the community and serve others, like help out, because that takes power from the disease somehow.
Yeah, and anybody out there listening to this who's not involved with the various calls, support groups, coming to the annual meeting, give it a try. I have learned so much at the calls, and I think almost all women have trouble with bladder issues. And I remember a woman on the woman's call saying, "So you pee and you think you've peed, but just sit there another couple of minutes because you will pee again." And that I've had a couple of times in my life with repeated urinary tract infections. I haven't had one in 2.5 years. And why? Because it just takes a long time. You think you're done, but guess what? You're not. And if you need to stand up, sit down, a lot of people have different tricks. And by being involved with the community, and it is funny on the Spanish call, because in Latin America, people are less inclined, I'd say, to talk about, I have trouble peeing, so I'm always the one bringing up all this stuff, but it's very, it's very important. And on the other hand, I, about 5 years ago, had a terrible time with bowel problems. And I thought it was ALD, but I did go to a gastroenterologist having explosive diarrhea. I mean, where you get this, you have 12 seconds to find a toilet. I mean, literally. And, so anyway, I went to a gastroenterologist, had another colonoscopy, blah, blah, blah. And she said, "You have microscopic colitis. And it's something that comes and goes. It's kind of an old age thing, whatever." And anyway, it's been treated successfully with Metamucil, of all things. When you have diarrhea, you take Metamucil at night. And I haven't had, so in other words, that was not ALD. Not everything you get is ALD.
Although Ken knows
Yeah.
the Metamucil thing has come up in the
Yes.
ALD community as
fun.
something that's helping a lot of
A lot,
people.
yeah. The Metamucil
So
is like
maybe-
a miracle drug. Yeah.
See, I like blaming ALD for
everything.
everything.
Blame it for
Right.
everything.
Like that
Because
eye
it's like-
twitch. Ooh, that
Yeah.
cramp on my side. Yes, all of it. Mhm.
Oh yeah, I made an ass of myself yesterday. It was ALD. Like anything. Oh, a little fender bender. I have ALD. Like no, yeah.
But
Yeah.
I have a rare disease. Yeah, I know.
I have a rare
Well, thank you for
disease.
sharing that. Those
Yeah.
topics, the bowel and bladder issues are certainly an issue for so many in the community, and I think we do need to talk about it and share what works. I was thinking about my mother who used to say, "Bend forward to empty your bladder completely," and
Yes.
I think I was 12 at the time because I started peeing myself at a very young age. It was like a stress incontinence when I would laugh
Right.
with one of my friends, and I just had an issue in school. I could not, and she was like, "You have to empty your bladder, bend forward." So sometimes I hear her in my head saying that, but I think you're right. You've got to be patient and, really try to empty your bladder fully and all of that. So thanks for those tips.
I think we can come back, but I think we should sway back to Jack.
Oh,
So he had transplant, and then what happened?
oh. We decided, well, Dan and I, when we had kids, we were very determined that we wanted our kids happy. She was not a big believer in this, but that was
I
really,
believe in children
she
being
believes in
happy.
the happy, but she was like, "What are you, a hippie? Like what?" And we were just like, we want our kids to feel comfortable and experience the world and embrace joy, all those things. Maybe we are hippies, but that's okay.
I made my kids clean their rooms,
Yeah.
do
Right.
hospital corners on I was a mean mom.
No, not mean. Just we were not, whatever. We focused on experience. And so when Jack got sick, Dan and I did say, like, this is not going to end that goal of prioritizing experience and joy and relationships. And so we travel with Jack. We got him in, we found a wonderful school. New Jersey is great. His first school, PG Chambers, was amazing. Then we found Pillar for high school, which was great. Now he's in an adult program 3 days a week, and he has caregivers that we call his other mothers that are extraordinary, that are largely paid for by the state, which is great. There's Jack now.
Jack.
Picture taken in Chile. Can you believe this? Like a month ago. Look at that happy fellow. And so travel, experience, new foods. We don't get embarrassed taking him out and about. We bring a diaper bag and a sense of humor wherever we go. And it just is what it is. And what we've found is it tends to, we get more beautiful comments from people than ugly ones. I mean, there have been some like old cranky people that get upset when I bring them into the bathroom with me, or, you know, when they're watching me feed him at a restaurant or whatever. But that's his life now. It's as big and broad as it can be. And he lives very much in the moment he's in. I think
Yeah.
his brain damage, he's able to walk, see, and hear, which I know a lot of ALD boys transplanted as they don't have those luxuries. But also the luxury of just being present. He doesn't have the frustration of what he can't do. He's just so happy that he can. Like, we just had French toast and bacon for brunch.
But Jack knows a lot. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
the
yeah.
woman that's always worked for us in Chile has come up here 3 times to visit. And the first time she came, Jack was about 5 years post-transplant. He had not seen Olga in 5 years. The minute she walked in the room, he stood right up.
Yeah.
He recognized her. You know, if you can, or if you walked in the room, Jack would just keep on watching the game or
Well,
whatever.
Jack has met them both.
Oh, well, okay.
So
but you know,
you might get a lick. And
you
a
might
hug.
get a lick and a hug, but you get what I'm saying. It's, you know, I say to people, brain damage doesn't mean your whole brain goes down. It's like someone splattered acid on your brain. You know, parts of Jack's brain, the part that, well, Jack for 6 months after transplant could not speak, but he could sing.
Yeah.
And he learned new songs.
Oh,
That
wow.
Christmas, he learned Smackwater Jack. I was playing it over, and you know, the Smackwater Jack, when he got a shotgun, he was out for a little rough fun or whatever, however it goes. He learned that song. And at one point, they thought Oliver Sacks was going to interview him. I mean, it was, well,
I reached out.
we were working on that. But
we weren't really
then
close.
he lost that part of the brain also. And language, you know, he's never learned, he can't really sign, he can't, you know, it's language what is gone. But Jack has a lot of memory. People say, can he still read? We don't know.
No, he definitely can,
Yeah.
because when he uses his iPad,
Oh, that's true.
it's crazy. And we didn't appreciate that for a couple years until he got an iPad. And he had a wonderful one-on-one aide at his high school. And she was like, watch this. And it was remarkable that he was reading. Like, so never underestimate. And Jack, language is gone in the traditional sense, but he can say I love you in sign language, which is a gift. And he communicates so well silently. Like, we know when he's hungry, when he's happy, when he's pooped himself. We know he's just like a
Well,
loud
and
energy.
he's a young man, 27, and likes age appropriate vulgar jokes about, and if someone starts telling a Trump joke or say, Jack, he knows something funny is coming, right? Whereas if I start talking to Dan about the markets and the price of, Jack's not interested. What he likes on television is, what is it, Impractical Jokers, and you take him to a movie. And I remember this was years ago, taking him to Me, Earl, and the Dying Girl. And Jack was in tears when it's not that. And I remember taking him to Get Out. I didn't even know what Get Out was about. I mean, we were just going to the movies every Thursday afternoon or something. And we get into a packed movie theater for the 4 o'clock shit. And I thought, oh, that's so odd. Usually there are 4 people at this show, right? But that movie, oh my God, Jack was on the edge of his seat. And then you realize that people are having their brains stolen, and Jack kept standing. I mean, he's tracking the story. We go to Broadway shows with him every year, and we've learned. The first time we went, we had seats, and Jack's kicking the seat in front of him, bothering people. And so now we've learned to always, if we're 4 people, sit 4 and 4, so it's family sitting in front of him. And we often
Like
are
your
in the
family,
back row.
not strangers, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
'cause
exactly.
we know
He can
he's
kick
going to
his
stand
grandfather.
up, and that's fine. He likes it. With the last one we went to was Buena Vista Social Club. Jack knew all the music because Jesse and Dan always have music on. He loved it and is clapping along. And then when the sisters are having the fight about who's going to go to New York, he was.
But he also, like, I'll walk into the room and he'll be in tears. And it's because, the dog commercial about adopt the animals.
Adopt a dog.
And yeah, he is very in tune to how others around him feel and what's going on.
He knows what's going on, definitely.
He does.
And it's not just reacting to your reaction. Because I remember once Jesse and I were going down to Johns Hopkins. Jack was in the back seat, we were in the front, and we were gossiping about a friend of Jess. I mean, just we were talking, not saying anything bad, but we were talking.
Gossip.
And Jesse said, oh my God, if she just wouldn't wear those prairie dresses, she'd look. Jack burst out laughing. And he wasn't seeing our facial expression, but he knew who we were talking about.
I never
and
have
her
said
prairie
anything
dresses.
bad about
And
anyone.
no, Jesse would never say anything bad. But no, Jack, you never. We don't know what Jack knows, but Jack knows a lot.
He knows.
He knows a lot. And he's not just in the moment. I mean,
No, I disagree. I
Oh,
feel
okay.
like Jack is very present. When I say he's in the moment, he's not worried if I say we're going to do blood work today.
Oh,
Like, I know when I'm getting blood work all week, I'm like, oh, they're gonna pinch my
Yeah.
arm. Or like, we're not going to do this because so and so. He just doesn't worry and he doesn't lament. Like I'm a therapist now. Like I wish everyone would learn from Jack. Like slow your roll, get back here, and let's deal with this moment and today and try to not push things down, but you know what I mean.
You've said he's loud. I mean, you said that in the past. He's absolutely loud. I remember you saying that he's loud. I mean, he is loud. I mean, if you're around him just for a little bit, the couple times that I have been, you can totally, yeah. And you can see it if you just look at him. You can tell that he's in tune, and that's awesome. You know what? He's living the life. I think not exactly the life we could all live, obviously with some adaptations, but that's it's not
And
necessarily a bad life.
Well, because
Right.
of Jesse and Dan, he's living the best possible life he could live. I
Yeah.
mean, and living in the great state of New Jersey. I mean, literally, people, if you have a child with a severe disability, you ought to move to New Jersey.
Well, Massachusetts,
And Massachusetts
also great.
also,
There
yeah.
are a few of them, but Jersey definitely has
Yeah,
been good.
Massachusetts.
Yeah, no, Christie, seriously, masses.
Yeah. But if you live in West Virginia or South Carolina, you've got to move out of state if you want to get more help for your son or daughter. Because here you've got a lot of great schools. He's in a
We're
fine
very
adult
lucky.
program. It's just great.
Well, everything's so close too, because
Yeah,
we're
very
packed.
populated. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Well, and how lucky is he to have you all as his family? Honestly, I mean, just hearing you talk, he's in tune, but you all are in tune, and you have done so much to support him and continue this effort to see that he's happy and healthy and cared for and loved. It's a really beautiful story. And Jesse, you mentioned before that you have written about it. So let's give a plug to your book and your website. Can you share
It's
a little bit about that?
I started writing in a caring bridge when Jack was diagnosed, and that quickly became like my therapy also, kind of trying to figure out what words could share what we were going through. And then that turned into a blog, Smiles and Duct Tape. And then in 2016, I wrote a book that was published called Smiles and Duct Tape that kind of followed our story till about day 100, but then with perspective, like from after the fact. You can still get it on Amazon.
I was just going to say it's on Amazon, right? So
I'll
the
put the
blog
link
is
in the
still up and running.
link is in the description.
Oh, wow.
Fantastic.
Fancy.
Yeah.
But
So,
writing still is super helpful.
And the book is so wonderful because most books about the sick child, either the sick child dies or the sick child is starting Yale in the fall, And with Smiles and Duct Tape, it's how you go on day after day, month after month, year after year. It's and you hold your family together with Smiles and it's a wonderful story about how the Tories have dealt with all this.
Well, it's because we had a great community of family, our friends.
Oh, your friends were
I
amazing.
can't, like, we had meals delivered to our door for over a year every day.
Wow.
We had our dog walked, and Anna was cared for, and Anna is like amazing. So anybody with siblings of these kids, keep in mind that those kids, one, need attention and all that, but they are incredible. All the siblings I've come to know in the ALD world have been definitely marked by it, but in a good way. Like it's provided motivation, taught them compassion and empathy. And so,
But one
yay
thing
to
too to
siblings.
point out, as tough as it was, Jack was not the center of this family. You know, it was wonderful that, because I see some families where there's the sick child, and I really worry about the siblings because they're not getting any attention because it's all this little boy was cerebral and it's so terrible, so terrible. And Jesse and Dan always have had dinner every night, and Jack was at the table. Anna would be reciting the list of the first ladies of the United States, or should be talking about second year algebra. Next year, I want to go right into, whatever. Anna really got to shine. It wasn't all of, and you and Dan have always had your lives. Well, Jack's, your lives have been very different, very different. But it's that keeping a balance, I think, is so important.
Definitely.
Yeah, an incredible, inspiring story. And thinking about the community and thinking about people who obviously you support each other, which is such a beautiful thing to witness. And you have husbands who support you. Who are the other sort of people on your personal teams that you can go to when you have a really hard day or when you have a win that you want to share?
I've been blessed with a circle of friends, some whom I've known since I was a little girl. And I have two wonderful brothers. I didn't have a sister, so I kind of made sisters along the way. And a lot of them are like aunts to Jack. And so they're a huge amount of my support system. And Jack's caregivers too, who have become dear friends of mine and like family to us, I would say.
And when Jack was younger, now of course the kids have scattered, 27. But Jack, my goodness, the year that Anna was going to so many bar mitzvahs and bar mitzvahs, Jack was going to a lot of them too. I mean, it was incredible. People that had known Jack, the kids that had known Jack before, since Jesse and Dan were handling this is what life is dished up, but since they were making life as kind of normal as absolutely possible, the kids Jack had known, they still all came around. And of course, Anna and Jack are just 2 years apart. And, Jack was going to parties and dancing with and it was so good because all those young people, they were growing up knowing Jack. And yes,
Yeah.
I mean, he can't talk. He has a G tube. We've got to
And he's still like, I'll walk outside. We've got a pool here. And when Anna's here with all the pals, I'll walk out. And if you didn't know Jack's life, you wouldn't think like, oh, there's a boy who's medically fragile and fully disabled. He's like in the middle of people drinking beers and
people putting beer
know.
in his G tube is fabulous. Why not?
hell, doctors could listen.
Oh, they aren't allowed. Well, whatever. Rules are meant to be broken once
That's
in a while.
right.
No,
Agreed.
Jack is living a full
He's
life.
got a wonderful life.
Yeah, he really does.
I love that.
Very cool.
So Ken is going to ask you the $1 million question. Drum
Now-
roll, please.
And this goes pretty much for your entire life, I would say. If you could live one day without ALD, what would you do?
Well, I'll answer for Jack, but what would you do with your ALD if you woke up tomorrow and all your symptoms scattered?
If all my symptoms were gone, I'd go for a jog and I'd bike around Central Park. That,
Oh, that's
I
good.
really miss being able to have my legs work,
Oh.
That's
yeah.
sweet.
Yeah.
I love
It's so
that.
funny for me. The idea of jogging is a nightmare. So that I would not.
Yeah.
I'm focused more on Jack. If there were no ALD in our family, the
Yeah.
thing I really miss the most, and this is the one thing that'll get me, is his voice.
Just talking.
Like I know how connected he and I are. I know it, but I just wish I could like hear. And I used to have dreams of him talking. That's
talking
been
dream.
forever. So that's the thing that still gets me. I could change his diaper forever. I can like deal with the bathing and dressing and feeding and all the
Yeah.
work I don't care about. It's the lack of the words. That's what I would. Sorry, it's supposed to be a fun thing.
No,
that's-
I think
that's
that's
crappy.
it's honest and it's true for
Yeah.
you. And thank you so much for sharing that,
That's
because you're speaking from the heart. Right?
mhm.
It's, yeah. It's the thing that's been the hardest.
So
I mean,
what would
seizures
he
are-
say though? What would he say if you could?
I
If he
think
could
it'd be
speak?
like, fuck, it's been a long time. And
Right.
I don't really like that band that you keep playing, or, he would,
Stop putting these
be-
socks on me, Mom. Yeah.
yeah. Or, I don't know. He's awesome. I just would like the words. So maybe the doctors could start working on that,
Yeah.
getting words back.
Let's do it.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
what would you share with clinicians from your experience? Like what's a takeaway for them?
Well, I think the momentum is there for men with AMN, for women are being recognized and studied. And I really look forward to there being a real standard of care for women.
Yeah.
I do think more research on the boys post-transplant to find out, like, the rumor mill is they're going to develop AMN, but we want to know like how to prepare. Like we stopped doing MRIs with Jack about 10 years ago because it was such a horrific day and then days after, and there was nothing we could do if we started to see progression. Like unlike newborn screening, when you're monitoring, then there's an end game. But this was more just to find out. And I've learned from Jack to live with the information that's right there. And today, Jack is doing great. If he had an MRI indicate the progression had started again,
Why get bad
Yeah.
news if you can't do anything about it?
but
Yeah.
if they said like, oh, then we can start them on this medication that can prevent, then, so working on the boys post transplant.
Yeah.
And yeah, like a way to regrow myelin. So we all.
That's what we want,
Yeah.
guys, is regrow myelin tissue.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
It all is reversible.
Yeah. If we could rewind all of this, that would be great.
Well, thanks so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for everything you guys.
Yes,
are
thanks for what you're doing. It is so important. It really is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep, we're just getting started too. We're diving in. We're trying to get some doctors, potentially some researchers. That's the hope and the goal. So the ball is rolling. We got to keep it rolling. So yeah, so this is awesome. And again, everyone watching out there, mother, daughters, we'd love to have you because I feel
Who's
like
the mother? Who's the daughter?
Well, I know when you said your ages, I was like, I held back my shock. Okay, I held back the shock, but I have to say,
hold on, well, real quick here before we wrap. Let me go back on our slides here. Well, there, even the one at the bottom left. You don't look that much even different from that.
Same. I mean, you don't have fangs, but you look pretty much the same. Like, what do you eat? Is it kale? Is it vitamin D?
No, I don't eat kale. I eat a healthy diet. I do.
Healthy
I
diet.
make all my bread.
It's like a bird.
Pilates.
Jessie grew up having homemade mayonnaise and hated homemade bread. I sprouted bean sprouts. Oh, she hated it. Mom, we just want Wonder Bread and American cheese. No.
So no more bean sprouts and no more hospital.
No more. They wanted.
Yeah, no more.
The keys to
I don't
happiness.
do bean sprouts anymore, but I do eat a healthy diet.
Well, this is ALD No Limits. If you're a first-time watcher, don't forget to like and subscribe. And we'll have many more future episodes, but this one sure has been golden. And we're so lucky to have Jean and Jessie with us. You might hear from them again in the future because they did start to talk about bladder and bowel a bit. And we may have some special episodes devoted to that very topic.
Oh,
So
yeah.
Look forward to the fun.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thanks,
You're doing a
ladies.
fabulous job.